Strolling through the woods where the shadows dance, chasing wild dreams, taking every chance. With a friend named Bigfoot, side by side we roam. Outlaws of the forest, this place feels like home. Join the gang, it's a wild ride. Bigfoot, outlaw, living free and bold, chasing wild dreams, never growing old. We run with the wolves under the silver.
Welcome to another edition on this Wednesday evening, broadcasting live. We're outside Memphis, Tennessee. We want to give a shout out to everybody that's tuning in to tonight's show. And we also want to give an update on Justin Decker. We want to send prayers to Justin and Jennifer McDaniels and friends and family. If you're not aware, Justin did have his heart surgery last week for the pump. Unfortunately, after the surgery, he ended up having a stroke, and he's still recovering in UK Hospital in Lexington, Kentucky. So please send your prayers and everything to Justin and Jennifer and friends and family. We really want to remember them and everybody. Well, hello there, Becky. Nice to see you there. We're just talking about Justin and wishing speedy recovery there. Welcome, Leonard. Mary, we'll see you in a few minutes in the green room. Brian Barber, Griff, nice to see everybody here. So, Mike, Becky, what are y'all up to?
Well, I've got to go back to work tomorrow, so.
Becky's got to go back to work tomorrow, and I got to go back to work probably a couple weeks. Probably a couple weeks yet, Becky. Yeah, a couple weeks yet. But I did have to work a little bit today, though. I had a little Zoom call with the state, but for the most part, it's just been too hot to get out and mess around with anything a Sasquatch, grizzly. Hopefully we get a little break in that in the next couple of weeks. So we got some things going on, but mainly I've been just trying to stay cool.
Yes,
I hear you
absolutely.
there.
I want to shout out, Grizz, Brian Barber, who's watching. Brian did a super job a couple times co-hosting, running the board, filling in
Yes.
for you with us, and we had a couple good programs. You missed Kevin Brannick. We had a real good program with him, and so Brian was and Steve Nabowski too. Real good one a couple weeks ago with Steve, and we got to get both those guys back on. So anyway, we're glad you're back, though. Glad you're back. And
yes, absolutely. Thank you, Brian Barber. And I'm thinking about doing a spotlight show on Brian and trying to figure out how to put Brian in advertising about him having Bigfoot feces in his freezer. I think that is something interesting we need to revisit. I never forget when he first announced that on my show years ago. His better half about had a meltdown when he pulled that sweet and low box out of the freezer. So
he doesn't have it mixed with the peanut butter jar, does he?
Unbelievable. So yeah, but yeah, I'd like to probably bring Brian back on a Wednesday. Have you, Becky, join us, and I think that'd be a good topic. What do you think?
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
that sounds good.
Yeah, and tonight you have a guest, don't you?
Yeah, Mary Ann's with us tonight. Mary Ann Zebo, and correct me, Mary Ann, when you get on here if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but she's a fellow Missourian and a lot to share.
All right, come on down, Mary Ann. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me tonight.
Oh, it's
Hello,
a pleasure.
Mary.
It's an honor. Nice to have you. I heard Mike has talked all about you, and I got all excited. And when Mike told me he was coming on, I was like, "No way!" And what did Mike say? Yes way.
Yes way. We have a lot. You know, people. Missouri is considered nationwide as flyover country. You know, everybody flies over it from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the north to the south, and we drive through it. And I didn't realize this until, people know my story 5 or 6 years ago. But Missouri, throughout the state, is very, very active. One of the most active states in the union with Bigfoot activity. And Becky and I found out firsthand. I'm sure Mary has found that she's going to tell some of her story and some of the things that she's got going on. Mary, you're over in the Springfield area. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Over in the southwestern. I'm in the southeastern part of the state. She's in the southwestern part of the state. So we probably got about a 4-hour drive between us going across the Missouri Ozarks. But so tell us a little bit about your what got you started with Bigfoot, Mary, and what's going on over there. Tell us about how you got going with it, and then we'll talk about some other things.
Okay. Well, I've always been interested, even as a little kid. My library book choices were always Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, things like that, And, like we all do with life, it gets in the way. You get involved in things. But anytime there was anything ever on TV about it, I was always watching it, and very immersed in it. And in 2019, where I was working, one of the ladies was talking about her husband had heard, he listened to the police scanner and the county, there had been a sighting. And I'm like, you're what? No. Because at that point, for whatever reason, like you, Mike, Missouri's just in the middle of the country, right?
Yeah. We didn't think they were here.
No. And so I got on the BFRO, started looking around and found out that they had expeditions. And I'm like, no way. You're kidding me. Okay, I got to sign up for this. I have to do this. So I came home one night and told my husband, I said, I'm going to sign us up to go hunt Bigfoot. He said, excuse me, you're going to do what? We're doing what? He's good natured. He rolls with the flow, right? I signed us up for it. My children lost their minds. Mother, you're going to the woods with 40 people you don't know. What's wrong with you? You know, I mean, all kinds of stuff. And I told my husband, I said, it's either going to be the greatest thing we've ever done or it's going to be the worst thing. And we'll know probably 5 minutes after we get there what it's going to be, right? Yeah. And let me tell you what, it's the best thing we ever did. Some of my best friends are from that very first expedition. It's great. But we went out the first night and basically I had a Class A sighting the very first night out there. And, you know, I'm kind of like, okay, you know, and the next day we're in camp and everybody's, you know, talking about it. And I didn't realize how big it really was, you know, that just was unheard of. You know, your first expedition, your first night out, you have a Class A sighting. And we had been out for quite a while that evening. All of our groups had met back up and then we dispersed again. We had walked down a road, got off into the woods just a little bit and sat down. It was full moon. We're all just kind of sitting there. And the leader and another gentleman started talking about how many people were in the group. Well, there were 10 people in this group and we're just kind of sitting around and they're trying to decide who's sitting where when they realize that there's actually 11 in this group. Yes. And they get up and start to move toward the one that they didn't believe belonged. And it jumped up, rolled over the berm and ran away.
So this just came in and sat down with you guys at the camp?
We don't know. We don't know if we walked in and it froze or if it just fell in with us. But we're standing there and my husband and I, and there was a younger girl, I think she's about 14. She's standing next to us. We're kind of in the very back of this group and we're just listening to them all talk about it. And there starts to be this loud noise behind us. And all three of us kind of look at each other. And I turned around and I took 3 or 4 steps in the direction. And at that point, about 25 yards out from me, this large, upright, hairy figure steps out and is just standing there.
Wow.
And it was a full moon. You couldn't see any kind of detail because, you know, it was just that you could see it was large, upright, hairy. And it stepped out. It kind of stood there. It stepped to the other side of the tree. I mean, it was making its presence known. And so at that point, my husband grabs the leader and is like, hey, you need to be over here checking this out. Well, he was so worked up over what had just happened, he never could get on the same page with us. I'm like, it's 25 yards right out there, you know. So then we started to hear movement to the side of it. Well, at that point, he decides that we're being surrounded and we need to get out. And I'm kind of like, well, this is what I paid for. This is what we're supposed to be doing, right?
It's what you signed up for,
right?
Right? This is
what,
Right.
yeah, this is what I signed up for. Well,
Wow.
So basically, I was told if I did not leave willing, I was going to be carried out of the woods.
By the leaders of the group?
Yeah.
Not by Sasquatch.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Yeah,
Wow.
pretty much. So I'm like, okay, fine. You know, so begrudgingly we leave, you know, we're walking back out to the main road and we can hear it. It's walking with us. It's paralleling us. Right. So we get back out onto the road and there was a slight, grade that we're walking up. And one of the members of the other group was standing up there and he was Thurman. Right. And we're about halfway to him. He said, hey, you know, who'd you guys leave standing down there in the road? We're all just like, we didn't leave anybody. Yeah,
we left
we're
Bigfoot
like,
down there.
We've had this conversation, you know. So we kept going, and he was, you know, he's like, no, there was something down there. So the biggest guy in the group, I think he's like 6'5", goes back down. They do a comparison, and this thing was a little over 7 feet tall that was standing down there watching us. So that was the very first night I ever went Bigfooting, and I was hooked. And I've been doing it ever since.
and I tell you what, that's like the coolest of the cools. Like, was that a BFRO expedition?
Yes, it was.
And I can't believe that they kind of, once you had the sighting and everything like that, they kind of, okay, let's
Breaks
go
out.
away.
Yeah, let's run.
I mean,
Essentially, that was, yeah. And to hear that person tell the story, they're like, well, I was afraid all the newbies were going to run into the woods. It's like,
well, I'm
what?
sure they have strict
Well-
guidelines on those. I mean, I would
That's
think
funny.
that, I mean, that you have strict guidelines going on those expeditions like that. You know, don't do this, don't do that.
Yeah, but they all sign waivers too.
Yeah, you sign
So
waivers.
you know what you're signing up for.
So you're saying this guy was about 7.5 foot tall? You said.
Yeah. They estimated, somewhere between 7.5 feet tall. So we're kind of thinking maybe it was Mama. That what was in the group with us was a juvenile, and
juvenile male or a mama, either one probably. I've always heard that the ones that are really most active at night, get curious with us, get close to us. A lot of them are the juvenile males, or the females in that respect. But 7.5 foot tall, the alpha males in southern Missouri get up to 12 or so foot tall.
Well, we think the one that was sitting with us was a juvenile because, it never stood completely up, but they said, they thought it was under 6 feet.
Okay.
But then what followed us out was somewhere between 7 to 7.5 feet. So that's why we said we were thinking that was probably Mama making sure we were leaving.
So the one sitting with you was a different one than the one you saw.
Exactly. Yes.
You got a glimpse of the one sitting with you, I guess, as he scampered away or something. But
Yeah. They were, it was kind of behind this, just a very small bush. And when the guys got up to move toward it, it just rolled over a berm because there was a berm on one side and a down tree, and it rolled over it. And the people that were closer to it were saying that they could see the hair glistening in the moonlight, as it's rolling over. It had shiny black hair, and they could see that. So it was pretty cool.
I'll give the BFRO credit. They knew where to take you, right, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I've got a question. Now, before you went out there, what'd you think about Bigfoot, about what it is or what it's not? What was your first impressions?
I used to, I believed it was flesh and blood. I believed it was real before I ever went out because I had just sat and watched too much stuff on it, right? So, I believed it was real. I was sold whether I saw it or not. And I still believe it's flesh and blood. I just don't know that at this point, we don't know what all it can do.
Exactly.
That's
Right.
my thing. I still believe it's flesh and blood. I'm not so sure as to what its abilities are. I think it has to have some things that we don't, because if it didn't, we would have proof. We have proof. We just don't have the proof that science wants.
Right. Now, when you did witness the encounters for your first time, what was your first impression and thoughts when you saw everything going down? That's always important to me.
I was just in awe of it. I never thought I would see, even though we're on an expedition, I never really thought I would see it. And I'm just kind of in awe of it. I'm just standing there. My husband's the one that took off and went and got the expedition ready.
Well, you kind of, in fairness to your husband, you kind of drug him there in the first place.
I did. And for the longest time, everybody called him the resident skeptic.
Has he gone back?
Oh, he goes with me all the time now.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. That's
Oh,
good.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's out there all the time, whether he wants to be or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's experienced things, he's heard things, he's never seen it. So he still hasn't seen one, but he's experienced some different things. So I think at this point he's still skeptical, but he says, I know there's something out there, I just don't know what it is.
That's the line they'll use. Well, there's something out there. I think you experienced something. I think they'll
Right.
admit to that. But But that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. First time out. Now when you saw him at, you said about 20, 25 yards. Is that right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and I guess what it sounds like you were just as calm as could be. It's like, hey, this is kind of cool. This is what happens on every BFR or expedition. I guess.
Right.
It's like there he is.
It's like, this is what we came out here to do, right?
Did it ever cross your mind that it may have been a person in a suit, that the BFRO set you guys up for that, or did that ever cross your mind, or was it just too real looking at it?
That never crossed my mind, because just the way the events played out, in that never crossed my mind. And after getting to know a lot of those people, definitely never crossed my mind.
Right.
And it was so big. I mean, my gosh, you would have to have a basketball player and have him in, 6-inch boots. And then I don't know that it still would be,
And most of even you get a basketball player that tall, they don't have they're thin. They don't have
right.
They don't have the
Right.
weight.
Yeah. And
Right.
this had bulk to it. I mean, had the big wide shoulders, it was that stereotypical Patty,
Yeah.
that was the best way, to explain it, was that it was a big monk. It wasn't a big person. I mean, it was just too big. It was too big to be a person. So
What was the temperature like that night? Was it a clear night, warm?
it was a full moon. It was in October. And we were probably talking about 50 degrees. So
perfect weather.
Nice.
yes.
Perfect weather for that.
Roger's asking, could you hear it walking, and also could you smell anything?
I have never smelt these things, and I know there's been a time or two I've been close to them, and I kind of have a theory on that. No, we did not hear anything. That's the wild part, until the other one that was out there with the big female was moving around. Now that you could hear. When we walked out, you could hear them pace us. Until that point, no, you heard nothing, smelled nothing. And I'm kind of to the point where I'm thinking the smell, I think it's something they can control, because
I believe you on that.
Because you have people talk about that. It's either something that happens to them when they get scared, or it's something that they can control and release as a deterrent to keep things away. Because if something smelled that bad all the time, how does it hunt? I mean,
yeah.
Right.
You're exactly right.
It's like, let's just use some common sense about that. If there's something out there that smells as bad as people say it does, there's no way that thing's sneaking up on anything. And it's not always going to be downwind when it's hunting, just isn't going to happen like that. So I think it's something that they can control.
Brian Barber's asking you, do you think they let you hear them and pace you out as intimidation to keep you all moving?
I think so. I think so. At that point, everything had got too close too quick, and I think it was like, all right, get them out of here, get them out,
Right.
Because we, like I said, going in, we heard nothing until Mama was out there moving around, and definitely as we were leaving it, you could hear it. So it was like, it didn't care at that point. It was making sure we were staying on our path to get out of the woods. And we went back to that spot the next day, and my husband found a track in a mud hole up there. There was so much water in it, we couldn't pour, cast it. And when you went in and looked where we were sitting, it was a big, large area the size of like a living room that was completely matted down. And if you stood on the little berm and looked out into the rest of the forest, there were saplings everywhere. You turn around and looked at this, and it looked like a huge area that had been completely matted down. So I think we walked into where they were, they're sleeping.
a spot for an afternoon nap or something like that.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
your husband found the print. How big was that print?
That print was about, let's see, I'm trying to remember. I think it was about 15 inches
Okay.
long.
And like you said, he hasn't seen one to skate. What was his thoughts on the print? Did he think, well, it could be something else, or it could be?
No. I mean, he was, he's very logical and very skeptical, and he was just kind of like, well, okay, I'm not really sure why somebody would be up here barefoot, and it's like, well, that's a pretty good sized track for, for somebody.
And,
Right. Right.
This is something for everybody to think about. And I've said this before. I'm not bragging on my size. I wear a size 15 shoe.
Oh, come on, Mike. You're
I do. My foot.
I wear 10.5. What are you talking about?
My foot is 13 inches in length.
Mary, go give me a tape measure.
Okay. Now, I'm just saying this because if she says 15.5 inches.
Right.
I'm 6'5", we're a size 15, 13-inch foot. That's you're talking about something 7.5 foot tall that has a foot that big. Then you think of the weight making those kind of additions, and that gives you that's not. There aren't many Missourians walking around barefoot in the woods in October that got feet that big.
Right.
Isn't that the truth?
Well, and two, it's not only the length, it's the width, because
Exactly.
as people, our feet are not that wide and bulky as these things are, and I believe that is to sustain, they've got to have a good foundation to hold that weight up.
They got to sustain their weight. They've got to, just for the climbing and all the different things they got to do. They got to have some paddles on those feet.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah. But that's awesome.
That's a really cool story.
Now that got you started. Okay, so that got you started. That's 2019. That's December 19 for me. Becky saw hers a year or two prior to that. So we're all around the same. Yeah. We're all around the same Bigfoot age here.
Yeah.
If you will. But
Right.
so you're over. So how did you go from there to organizing the Ozark Bigfoot Conference?
Well, so at that point in time, Missouri was only having one expedition a year, and it was in the fall. And so we had gone over to Kentucky a couple times to Charlie Raymond's events. Mm-hmm. And we were just hooked. That was one, something that we did. And we were actually coming home from one of his events. And my husband, he's driving, and I'm just like in the passenger seat. Okay. What I'm just like, I'm all amped up from being out on this expedition all weekend. And I'm like, okay, what can I do? What's going on in Missouri? What's not going on? What can I do? So I came home and I started talking to people. Hey, is there a conference here? And they kind of laughed at me. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? We have all these people are interested. Why are we not having a conference? And I just went, okay, well, that's it. Let's go. So we are on our 4th year. This will be our 4th year. And we have it at Relics Event Center. We've upgraded a little bit this year. Friday night, we're doing a VIP night at the Elks Lodge, having dinner. We've got a couple of guys that are going to record podcasts. Brian King Sharp, Wayne Thoreau. They do That Bigfoot podcast, Sasquatch Odyssey. They do those. And then RPG's coming to MC. He's going to be here. And then local guy, Shane Carpenter. He has the documentary Into the 400.
Right.
Shane and I have become good buddies. We go out and do quite a bit of stuff. And he's going to be there. And D.A. Roberts, local author here in Springfield, he's going to be there too. They're all going to be at the conference. My conference is different because after we're done, we go camp in the woods.
Oh, that's fun.
I've got private property that we take them all out. We take about 30 of the people, out and we camp. And we have had activity every time we've camped out there. The first time we ever camped out there, we had a small storm the very last night, right? And it was just utter chaos. Next morning we get up and I'm hearing people and I'm on my way to the bathroom and my husband's like, I think there was something, and I'm like, I don't have time for you right now, right? I come back and I'm like, okay, what are you talking about? And he's like, there was something walking around behind the tent. And I'm like, seriously? And everybody starts. So at that point, I go get Shane up because he's a tracker. And he's like kind of coming out of the tent, grumbling at me, you know. And I'm like, you need to come out here and look at this. Well, he said later, he goes, I was about ready to beat you because I knew there wasn't nothing out there. Well, he had to eat crow because there was compression tracks in the tall grass all the way around our campsite.
Wow.
And there was a couple of paranormal investigators there, and one of them had slept in her truck after the storm, right? And she got woke up. She's in the front seat, and she got woke up. She's kind of looking around, and her truck was parked next to my husband and I's tent, and she could see it standing in the back corner of our tent. And she didn't know what to do with it because she's a paranormal investigator, right? And she was like, I didn't know if I should take a picture, scream, what? You know, she was like,
all the above.
Right. And so what does she do? She covers her head up with her blanket.
Goodness.
Really?
But, man, I just scream and wake up everybody in the middle of the night at camp. So.
Grizzly, you would have had your 60-inch flat screen television blaring so loud you wouldn't have heard anything.
I know, right? Surround sound, my lights going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Patrick was there with us, and this thing. So what was funny when we started to talk to people had heard it, and most of them had just heard things around, but they all had presence of mind to either look at their watch or look at their phone. We had a timeline and could track it all the way around the campground.
Wow. Awesome. And then you start putting everybody's stories together. Now, what weekend is this going to be this year? What weekend?
This is the first weekend in October. And there's a couple of ways that people can get tickets for it. They can go to Eventbrite, and you can get the VIP tickets, the day of conference tickets, and you can get a package deal of those. But if you want to come camp with us, you have to go onto Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference Facebook page and message me for those, because those are very limited. We don't take very many, and I'm already about halfway full on that.
Okay, so
Ozark
Mountain
Bigfoot Conference
Facebook page.
Yes.
Get a hold of Mary. Hey, you got a camping trip with it. It sounds like there's going to be some fun, some activity. And we feed you. This is the whole thing. Because this is primitive camping. There's no electricity. Oh. And so I bring porta potties in, and we feed you guys breakfast and dinner. There's classes out there during the day. I mean, we put on a whole nother event out there. That's awesome.
And then at night we head out into the woods. Like last year, we had gone up on the hill behind the gentleman's house, and as we're crawling up the hill, the back half of the group is growled at. And we're like, okay. So we get up there, and so me and this other lady, our bait, we sat down, nothing, had everybody back away from us. We're just sitting out there waiting, and Shane's running around therming, and he kept getting a head and shoulders at 5.5, 6 feet. He kept just catching it in places. It was like moving around us to the point of we couldn't see it, but he would catch glimpses of it. So they're active on that property. The gentleman, when they first moved out there, they were throw rocks on the tin roof in the middle of the night. He goes down and washes his car in the creek. They throw rocks in the creek when he's down there doing that. Um, they've stolen flats of eggs. You know how you get those big flats of eggs?
Mhm.
Okay. So we didn't know this at the time. Very first time we went out there to camp, he had went to the store and bought those one day, and his son forgot to take them in the house. And they come back out the next morning, and they're gone. One flat is there, one flat is completely gone. Now, there wasn't any destroyed eggs anywhere, nothing, no signs of it, right? So they're trying to,
half for you and half for me.
right? And they're trying to say, oh, the neighbor's dog or this or that, raccoons. And it's like, okay, people, raccoons would have made the biggest mess, you know.
Right.
So a couple of days.
Anything else, there's going to be cracked eggs. There's going to
Exactly.
Oh yeah, that'd be a
There's going
mess.
to be a trail. And that's what
So
people
a
don't
couple of days
understand.
into camping, the flat of eggs shows up in the neighbor's yard down the road with one row of the eggs completely untouched.
That's interesting.
Now something has to have hands to carry that around and
Right.
do that.
Yeah.
Right. And why did they just leave her? You know, so many you start thinking about their thinking abilities and what they do and their patterns and stuff like that. It's so interesting.
Yes.
And they're very sophisticated.
Oh, they are. They're so intelligent. They're so intelligent. But they just can't help it. They're so curious that when we're out there, they just can't stand it. You know, they're coming in because, well, first of all, there's food smells. You know, there's people in different noises, and they're just out there all the time. So that's the private stuff that we do. And then so I lead the expeditions in the state of Missouri for the BFRO. And we do 2 of those a year. We have a spring and a fall. So we do those. And this year I have went into Oklahoma, and I'm doing expeditions in Oklahoma. And in September, I'm getting ready to go into Arkansas and do an expedition down there.
Well, that's awesome.
So you're expanding your borders.
I'm trying.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like,
I'm trying. Because nobody's been doing them in those states, and it's like Oklahoma and Arkansas are high on the list for encounters.
You must work close with Rick Taylor, I guess. Does Rick do
Richard? Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Richard
comes in, and he's a BFRO investigator, and anytime I say Richard, he's like, I'm there.
So we've had a couple shows. We've done a couple shows with him over the last couple of years. Super person, but
yes.
I got to get on a bucket list to get involved with one of yours, because this fall I'm in coaching season during that time, so I can't make it. But my goodness, that sounds like a great time if you'll have me over there.
Oh,
That was
absolutely.
Mike. That's what I was thinking. You probably definitely would make that one.
Yeah, that same weekend I've got a tournament this fall, but that's we definitely have to.
Mm-hmm.
And now, 2 weeks ago, we had Steve Nabowski on one of my research buddies over here at Cape. I know he went to your conference either last year or 2 years ago. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I remember he and a couple of our buddies went over there. I couldn't make it over there because in the fall I'm busy with sports. But yeah, that sound and for you to get to where you're starting out and seeing it, and then doing all this and you're doing it for bring out the awareness of what's going on here.
Exactly.
And it sounds like you got the right reasons going, and you got you a good lineup. How do you get that kind of lineup? Would be my question. How do you? I know Shane Carpenter's over there. So he's close. But,
right. He's and him and I have become really good friends. So it's basically I call him and go, I need this, and he goes, okay. The other ones, it's just connections, networking. I just got back from the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference last weekend. and it's just about networking and talking to people and doing that kind of stuff. Brian was the one that put me in contact with RPG. I actually met him a month ago, and we went to West Virginia Festival, and he was doing that.
I'm drawing a blank. Who's RPG?
RPG used to work behind the scenes on Finding Bigfoot. He was always like scouting their locations and things like that. And then he was on the first 1 or 2 episodes of Expedition Bigfoot. He was the one that, they were trying to say maybe he got zapped. He had some health issues and was taken out of work.
Okay. I remember.
That's who RPG is.
Yeah, he's been on our show a few times on our channel.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He's super nice guy. I mean, I really, really like him, but I got put in contact with him. But like when we were in West Virginia, we met Dr. Meldrum, Maria Mayer, Ken Gerhardt, Lyle Blackburn. I mean, a lot of people. And I've met Lyle before in Illinois. And then I was trying to think, met a few different people in Gatlinburg. And that's just, you go out and you have to start meeting them and asking, they can tell you no, or sure, I'll come do it. And they're starting to tell me now, I've heard of yours. Yours is different, and
well, I like the idea of a camp out and everything like that. Now, I don't know, Becky, Grizzly, you guys got some questions. I got maybe 1 or 2 more I'd like to ask, but
no, go ahead, help yourself. Well, I'm enjoying it. I know Mary and I are just sitting there soaking it all up.
So you answered mine.
You brought up Maria from Expedition Bigfoot. Here's my question, because I have watched that show. I don't watch it all the time. I have watched it.
Oh, Mike, tell the truth.
I have watched it. But it's like a lot. I don't watch a lot of them regularly because here's and I'm going to get your take on this, Mary. They go in the heart of Bigfoot country, and when they actually get evidence, they act like they're shocked as all get out. Now, that's got to be just for television only.
I was going to say, it's a show. Life. It's for entertainment.
Right.
It's entertainment.
Yes.
I'm sure. I'm hoping in person she would be better.
Oh, Mike, I'm glad you said that. Stand by, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. We got our disclaimer up there for everything services only.
Yes.
Man.
So, I got to talk with Maria, and she's actually listening to her presentation. The woman's incredible. The things she's done, and the places she's been, and things like that. I didn't know those things about her because they don't ever put that on there and tell you all of the things and places. And, she's actually, she's a smart lady. But she's on a TV show. It's entertainment, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they edit it how they want it in the end.
Right.
And really, in their target, they reach the audience they want to reach. They got to go out to the people that are just, armchair.
And they say for years they got all these shows out here trying to find this hairy creature, and they still can't find it.
Mary found it the first night.
Right.
First night. Come on, go with me. I'll take you. I'll show you where it's at.
Becky found him driving across Highway 36 in northern Missouri.
Exactly.
That's not that hard, folks.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, that's, it's like they go out and, find all these little things, and, it's like they got to keep the audience on the line and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
And I mean, anybody that actually goes out and does any kind of investigating, after about 15 minutes, you're like, yeah, no, I'm done, because it is a joke. I mean, they've got this state-of-the-art equipment that they should be walking out of there with phenomenal evidence. And even if they do get evidence, most of the time you don't hear anything else about it.
Well, I was just about to say that a lot of stuff that they do get is not broadcasted on TV.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly. Now, you talk about state-of-the-art equipment. When you go out, when you take your groups out, when you have the camp, all that stuff, what equipment are you using, or are you just kind of ditching it?
So it's, you know what? I have found you can take everything under the sun out there, and half the time it won't work.
Bingo.
So, we tell people, and I've changed it a little bit because the TV shows have ranked it because people think you need to go out there and beat and bang on trees.
Oh my goodness.
And whoop and holler and carry on.
Okay, like a holler monkey, like Mary calls it.
Right? Yeah. Okay. First of all, we don't know what that means to them.
Hello. Right.
True.
Hello. We might be doing mating calls for all we know. No, thank you. So we don't do a lot of that. Since I have taken it over, we don't do that. Now, if we have people in the group that want to do a tree knock, which I don't even believe they're tree knocks, but that's what we call them. Right. Or a whoop or something, we do that. But if we don't get any response from it, then we don't. We go out and make ourselves more of a curiosity for them, because if they're not used to people being out in the woods all the time, we put ourselves out there and just try to make ourselves as curious as we possibly can be. We have red lights on us, but a lot of the times we walk around without any. We've got recorders. I mean, a lot of the people have therms and things like that, but 9 times out of 10, the best stuff is when you don't have anything going and you're just out there. It seems to be that they know that. And
I agree with you 100%. We are on the same page there. One of my wonderful research partners, Bill Rummage, who's now in Oklahoma. We just one day like, hey, let's try it this way, and then that's the primitive way, just us and them. And we've had so many more interactions.
All right, I got a question for everybody. Since we see this and we hear with interviews and when we go out and do our own investigations with ourselves or with groups or expeditions, do you think it's possible or feasible that Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it, is sensitive or can pick up on electronic magnetic fields?
Well, I myself do, especially when you're out in the woods and there's none of that. Whether they're picking up on the frequency of the equipment, whether they can smell the plastic, whether they can see, the IR. Yeah. I think it's such a foreign element to them that it's like a big red flashing light. They can see it, they pick up on it, and they're like, yep, nope, we're out. Bye. Not having any part of that.
That explains like all the trail cams that are in the woods all over the place. Now I've seen some good Bigfoot photos on trail cams, and I'm sure Mary has as well. But they're rare.
Yeah. They are rare.
They're very rare. You don't. They pick that stuff up. They sense that stuff. She talks about half the time the electronics. I've been in situations with researchers with all the camera equipment, the lights, and everything fully charged, and then at the time they don't work.
Right.
And remember we talked about Richard Taylor. And he talked about that situation with Arlen. his equipment didn't work, and then Arliss says try it again, and then it didn't work the second. We all heard that story.
Yeah.
But so yeah, they got stuff going on that we don't know about, and but it's to me the better the interactions, the simpler I go about trying to deal with it.
Well, and that's us a lot of times. So like when we do our BFRO stuff, I have a core group that goes out with me, and we set up base camp on Wednesday. And a couple of years ago, we were camped by the river, and it was a Wednesday night. We were there early, and it happened to be Richard and I. We were sitting on this little platform just talking. My husband was in the camper doing something, and Richard and I are just visiting, having a good time, And I noticed he keeps watching, and he's doing his thing. And if you spend any time with Richard, you will learn to pay attention to what Richard's doing, because Richard has that native sixth sense.
Yeah.
And he's kind of looking and doing, and I'm like, okay, what you see and what's going on? And he goes, well, I think we got company. And I said, okay. So we're standing there talking, and he was showing me on his therm. There was a couple of spots that were pretty questionable about, well, that, So then we were watching something and kind of passing, the therm back and forth. And I'm started to look down there, and I could see, and this is the first time I've ever seen it. I was very hesitant about it before I ever saw it, because it was like not seeing it with my own eyes. I couldn't agree with it, but the self-illuminating eyes. And I kept looking at him going, is that what I think it is? And he's like, yeah, that's it. It's like, it was too early in the year for fireflies, lightning bugs,
Right.
whatever you want to call them, and it was almost like there were two little flashlights over there, but they weren't putting out a stream of light. It was just that they were illuminated themselves. And so that was interesting. But what was funny is, so we've been watching that, and all of a sudden he's like, oh my gosh, we got something walking. And I'm like, okay. So I'm watching it, and I'm like, I got so excited. I threw his therm and jumped off the stage, and I'm like running through the campground toward whatever this is, right? And it took me a couple minutes to come to my senses and stop and go, you don't know what you're running toward, because it was going to come around the corner right there. And it was like, okay, maybe this wasn't the best idea, right?
Yeah.
So I'm standing there waiting, because I'm on a path that I should come face to face with whatever that was, right? So it comes around the corner. It was one of the guys that we were camping with. We didn't know he'd gone off to talk to his girlfriend, and he was just sitting off down on the gravel bar, but you couldn't see him well enough to tell, that it wasn't, it was upright. It was walking, And so we kind of, we have a running joke now. We call him Drew Squatch, but we're like, you can't go off and not tell us where you're at,
Yeah,
But yeah, so yeah, they're just, and I know there's a lot of people that want to laugh at you when you talk about your intention when you go out there.
Right.
But I think they know, if you're not out there to harm and cause problems, and if you're respectful of the space, you're going to get a lot more interaction than if you go out there hooping and hollering and carrying on. And we
Right.
just get a lot more when we go in and we're a little more respectful of things.
No, I totally agree with you. I really do. I do think, and I think we talk about this on a regular basis on this channel. They do somehow know your intentions, and if you good or not good. And we hear that. I probably heard that over a couple of thousand times in the past 3 or 4 years. So it's very interesting, and to hear that, and I do agree with you on that. It's very fascinating. In the trail cams, I have probably about 60 of them, different makes and models. And I did a test 2 or 3 years ago, or maybe 4. I can't remember, Mike, how long ago. And I put them out in about a 4 square mile radius in a sector of woods. And it was interesting to see how the animals responded to the trail cams. I left them out there for 6 months. And I did capture 2 different types of creatures. We don't know what they are. We can speculate because the cameras were over 7 feet off the ground. So it was very interesting. But yeah, I do believe they pick up on the frequencies, the IR, the circuitry inside. Somehow they just know. They really do. And the IR lights. I'm a firm believer in that. Just like deer can see certain things and colors and whatnot. But very fascinating.
Exactly. I've got a friend. So it's not his property. It's somebody else's property. And there was all kinds of activity out there, right? And now they're letting this hunter in there. And he has taken and put cameras everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. All the activity has stopped. These things have moved off the property. They're not there. And if they're coming in, it's in areas where the cameras aren't, because this hunter's just inundated this property, and my friend's like, the landowners know they're there, but they're not telling anybody, and they're sure not going to tell that hunter that they're there. But now that the cameras are up, all the activity has stopped. They've moved out of the area.
Now, when I put my cameras up one time, when I left them out there for 7 months, I put 3 to 4 to a tree to get a 360, right? And I had them up in groups to where, for example, if you walked in Walmart, I can track you all the way through the store until you leave. And I was going to do the same thing through the woods. And I did that with herds of deer and other wildlife. But what was interesting is when I was looking at the data, I noticed that there were missing pictures and videos off the cameras that it did not record off the same tree. It's like something walked through and was like, "Oh, you're not working. You're not working." And I couldn't explain that, right? And when we talked in the green room earlier for the show, Mary and I went out with her kids, took her out to the area I was telling you all about where I had the pictures taken, and we were taking pictures of mushrooms, and I went to take pictures of this one group of mushrooms, and the cell phone was just blinking off and on, would not work. And I told her and the kids, "Well, we got to go." She's like, "What does that mean?" I was like, "Something's probably in the area." And we walked, like I said, 700 yards across the way, and it worked fine.
Yeah.
So, once again, electronics,
And when we were walking up to that area, there was kind of a weird smell. It was kind of like a sewer type smell. So I don't know what they smell like, but it was kind of prudent. Pungent. I was saying the wrong word. But we walked up and I kind of smelled it a little bit and I didn't think nothing of it. And then he's walking over and we were basically just hunting golf balls in this forest area and having fun with the kids. And he's like, "Look at that." And I was like, "What?" And I looked down and it was weird. His cell phone, he had the camera on and he was looking at this cool looking mushroom, and his phone was literally radiating. It was just flashing and it wouldn't even focus or anything. He couldn't get it to pull up for the text. He couldn't get anything, the dial out. It just kept the colors were coming through and it was like
interference.
Like interference.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
Well, I've heard people talk about, so, we know that everything vibrates. We all vibrate at a different level. And, I've heard people talk about, what if these things can vibrate sometimes at a level that our eyesight does not perceive? So it's first of all, the amount of energy that would take, right? Well, when they're doing that, that's going to throw any electrical object off, because that probably, for something that large, the amount of energy, that produces, that's going to make all your electronics go haywire.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. It's just an opinion, it's a thought, but I've wondered about that. It's that would be probably one of the things that they could do that, we like to put in that woo category of they disappear. Well, I don't know it's that they disappear. Maybe they can vibrate differently than we do. Or maybe that's their environment and they're the masters of it and they can step behind a tree and you never see them again.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And a lot of people, Marianne, are going back to the old film instead of using digital cameras and recording devices because you don't have any electronic interference with those devices, right? And I know, because I know Mike, a couple of years ago, I took my police camera out I used to use on the police department, and I was really upset during the show. I thought it got ruined, didn't I, Mike?
Yeah.
I thought I got fried. And I had this camera for years, expensive camera, expensive lenses, and it just quit working. And within another day or two, it started working again. It just freaked me out. And some of my cameras were $3,000 or $4,000 a piece.
Yeah.
Lenses, right? And it's just like, wow. And but we're getting a lot of good information from people using those older cameras and getting good pictures. But once again, it's not digitally enhanced, and the computer's not enhancing the photograph. It's what you take is what you get.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
Brian says, Grizzly and I scored a trail cam that uses film. I'm so excited. Oh, well, there we go. I don't know if you can even buy those anymore because I was trying to buy some last year. Like I need any more trail cams, but when I was looking for sponsors, and they're like, "What are you gonna do with the trail cams?" I'm like, "You don't want to know." They're like, "Tell us." I'm like, "Bigfoot." They're like, "Shut the front door." They're like, "No." They're like, "Really?" They're like, "Can you write that up and send it to us?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Marianne, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. How do people find you and locate you and get a hold of you if you like?
Well, we have a couple different ways. We actually we do a TV show on Area 52 TV, and that comes on Wednesday nights. Or you can go onto YouTube, and it's just under Marianne Zabel. We have the Bigfoot, Wild Man, and Boogers show. Also, you can go to Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference and private message me on that page also. Or if you want to go with us at the BFRO, go on there and look up, BFRO.net. You can do expeditions with us in Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. What do you think, Mike and Becky and Mary?
I need to get on a bucket list to do one of these either the conference or the expeditions with you.
Mike will probably bring an extra sock to put in my mouth, wouldn't you, Mike?
The other thing, Mary, will you come back on after the conference and talk about that overnight camp?
Absolutely.
We need to do that.
Yes, I would very much like to listen to your stories and hear all about all your experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of stories. There's not many times that we don't go out that we don't have something. And it may not always be something major, but it's something, and sometimes it's the small things that are actually more, you get more excited about sometimes than the big stuff.
Yeah, that is awesome. Correct.
Right.
That's correct. Well, Marianne, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference.
I know, man. That is great. Mike and Becky and Mary, people go out there their whole life and for years, and they never have nothing, no encounters at all. And the first time she goes out, bam, right there in Kisseroo, right? Unbelievable. That's just fantastic.
Crazy.
It's always welcome.
Doesn't get any better than that. So.
Yeah, right. And ladies, don't forget about Justin Decker and Jennifer McDaniels. Please make sure and send prayers.
And
go ahead.
Make one more announcement. Ronnie Vincent, the last couple of years, I've never met him in person. He's a Southeast Missouri guy, super nice guy. Met him through the Bigfoot community. He started watching our podcast early on, and it was so encouraging. Hooked me up with some of the guests that I had that I had no idea. Helping me with some people behind the scenes. Passed away of cancer this week, but he knew his Savior and all is good. With his eternal life, and but just I just want to say Godspeed to him and his family. And,
right,
and,
absolutely.
Remember them, and Justin, keep improving, buddy. So
absolutely. And next Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not making any promises, but hopefully we can have somebody that got famous for finding Sasquatch species in the woods and put in a sweet and low box. And it's still there in his freezer. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to hear the story once again. It never gets dull. And, and ladies and gentlemen, it's just a quick reminder. If you're going out in the woods, take a sweet and low box. You never know when you're going to
looking forward to that one.
That's right. And ladies and gentlemen, from coast to coast around the world, Godspeed. We'll catch you on the next show. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.